ready to start. This is why I wanted to start quickly here. We're going to have one little slideshow in case we have some stragglers coming in. So we have slideshow from the field trip, right, Chris? You're all ready to. thank everybody who went to the field trip and for submitting your images. I think those were really great. So yeah, if you want, I see you might giving a hand clap. We will go on to Monique and give her time for her presentation because we're all looking forward to it. So Monique is a street photographer from Hamilton, right, Monique?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes.
Okay, so and I sent everybody her introductions, but if you want to do any more introductions when you get a hold of it, when you get the screen, Monique, you go right ahead. So
Okay.
go ahead, and I'm going to mute everybody, and then I think I'm going to mute everybody and then unmute you, Monique. Oops. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Monique, if you can.
How about that? Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
How's that?
You're good. You're good.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm just going to hide all my toolbars, and that way there we go. So I'm going to first of all start off and say thank you for having me come and speak to you tonight in Lethbridge, even though it's virtual. I have a lot of fond memories. When I was 17, I was on a 4-H exchange from Ontario, where I grew up in Brockville, and I went to stay with the family in Vauxhall, and I think we even made it in. Well, I hope I came in under the hour. I know you've got a lot more to the meeting tonight.
Yeah, we're good. So thank you very much. I think everybody enjoyed it. I think I got everything on the chats, but there certainly are people on there that are telling you that they loved your images and whatnot. I'll check the chat later, and if there's something there, then I will send it to you, because I think the chat.
Sure. And I took the liberty to put my Instagram feed into the chat. So if people want to connect with me, that's great. I'm happy to follow back, and I'm a great supporter, and, love to have conversations about street. So thank you so much for having me tonight.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. If everybody's still here, we are moving on to Bronnie, who is our street photographer, but this time he's giving us a little segment on Lightroom on a couple of tips. So I've turned the recording back on. I think I'm good. So Bronnie, you can go ahead and take over.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it was a good session. I really enjoyed that. Thanks, Monique. So what we prepared?
You probably need to speak up, Bronnie. I can't hear you very well.
Sorry, guys. Is it better?
Better.
Yeah, sorry. I forgot about it. Better. My mic. Sorry about that. So I have a short segment. It's I'm gonna share my screen with you. So we have a short segment about a couple of sliders in Lightroom. Those are those kind of sliders that can be easily confused. I'm pretty sure people know what the difference is, but we figure out it would be good to go over them. It's those kind of Latvia, Lithuania, Paraguay, Uruguay. Sometimes we get confused about those. So what I would like to cover briefly is these four sliders: is texture versus clarity, and then vibrance versus saturation. So many times, we fiddle with these, and I would say probably the two most overused sliders, I would say, is the clarity and saturation. That's, you can see it many times in pictures how when you push the clarity too much, you see little halos around the subjects, and when you push the saturation too much, you see the color posterization. But frankly, when I was preparing this presentation, I thought I know what the difference is, but I came out to the conclusion that I still had to fiddle with some of those, and actually I like to use them in the pair. So sometimes I use vibrance and saturation at the same time, but in the opposite way. So I'll quickly go over the differences. So let's just start with the texture and clarity. So texture, as it says, increases the texture in the image. So it targets high frequency areas. So what are high frequency areas? Those are the areas with a lot of details already. So for example, in this image, we know it would be, if we increase the texture slider, it would be affecting everything that already has some texture. So in this case would be the subject itself, the hair, the lips and the dress, but it wouldn't affect much areas which have no texture. So it would be, for example, the background. Or if you have a landscape picture, it would be the sky, for example. So let's have a look how this works. So let me just move this texture slider all the way to the right. So I don't know if you are able to see that. So I'll just reset it. So look at this. You see the difference in the hair and in the face, but not much in the background. I'll just go to let's go 33%. If I do the same thing with clarity, look what happened. Everything increases the micro contrast. So it's the subject and it's also the background. So if you look at this again, texture, look at the background, stays really untouched for most of the part, but the clarity increases the micro contrast in everything. So how I call these two sliders is texture is very subtle, so it's more like a brush, and clarity it's more like a hammer. So there's nothing wrong to using clarity, but you need to be more careful with using clarity slider because it's way more powerful than texture. So that's why we see many times people dragging this all the way, and then you see halos around the subjects. So very, very careful with the clarity. If there's a reason to pull the texture clarity to the negative values, there should be a reason, especially for texture. I use it many times, especially taking pictures of newborns or females. It's one easy way how to remove wrinkles. Not that this subject would have many wrinkles, but if I move the texture slider a little bit to the left, it will soften up the skin. There's obviously better ways to soften skin in Photoshop, but this is kind of the easy, quick way. And again, you don't want to go all the way, to the left. Then the face would look very plasticky and unrealistic. Anyway, so that would be one reason to pull the texture slide to the left just a little bit. I probably wouldn't go more than 10, -10, I mean. With clarity, I don't usually use the negative values, but there might be a reason to do that. And I forgot to mention, if you have any questions or any way you deal with these sliders, just feel free to put it in the comments, and then we can go at the end, read the comments and maybe have a quick discussion. So this would be the texture and clarity. Hopefully that makes sense. So texture again is very subtle, kind of paint brush way of dealing with increasing or decreasing the existing texture. Clarity is more of a more prominent change, and it increases the micro contrast or gives you more pop or reduce the pop overall in the image. Now let's move down to vibrance and saturation. Again, very two similar sliders, they increase or decrease the color in the image. But the difference is that the vibrance targets colors which are more muted and increases those colors. If there is a already saturated color in the image, the vibrance tries to ignore it. Another good reason for using vibrance is that it preserves skin tones. So really good way to increase saturation in the image without turning the skin color or skin tones into pushing it to orange or red or yellow. So let's have a look at this. So if I go with vibrance all the way to 100, you see that it increased, and this is extreme. Just remember, I would never do plus 100. I would maybe do plus 10, but increases the saturation in the colors which weren't that prominent. So it would be the oops, sorry, in the hair, backlight, and the background. The saturation slider, it affects every color in the image by the equal amount. So if I push the saturation slider all the way to the 100, every single color will get boosted by the same amount. So if you already have saturated colors in your image, by the time the muted one gets saturated, the saturated colors will start to posterize and break out. You probably will see it the most in colors like red or green or blue, the primary ones. And so again, when I was talking about texture clarity, when texture was the brush, clarity was the hammer, something similar is with these two. Vibrance is the brush, very subtle. Saturation is the hammer. And there might be a good reason when you want to boost every single color by the same amount in the image or reduce it. So that's when you use saturation. And again, you have to be very careful with the slider. Definitely don't move it as much as the vibrance. Sometimes I use these two sliders in opposite ways when I desaturate a little bit and then add vibrance into it. The reason to use negative values for vibrance saturations, you can use saturation negative values if you want to turn your picture to black and white. Again, it's easy way to turn your picture to black and white by moving it to 100% when you desaturate all the colors. Again, this is not the best way to make a black and white picture. There's many better ways how to do it, but again, this is one way. But if you look at vibrance, and if you turn vibrance to negative -100, you will see that it won't desaturate every color. You still get some colors leftovers. So again, vibrance is not as powerful as saturation, which will take completely all the colors removed from your picture. So at this point, I think I'm gonna end the presentation and see if there are any questions in the chat.
I have a question, Bernie.
Yeah.
I was going to write it, but I think it might be a bit complicated to write it. Let's say you grab you know how you have the selection brush that you can just brush in an area and then you can modify the sliders.
Right.
Let's say you painted the face and you modify clarity where it's not affecting the entire picture. Does it have the same effect as texture if you're only focusing on a specific area, do you think? Or like, would it be the same using either slider there or no?
I believe there's only clarity in for the brush. I don't think there's a texture. I can check. Let me just share the screen.
I don't really I don't use Lightroom as much, so I don't really remember, but
yeah. So here, let's have a look. So yeah, so both, yeah. So there is texture and clarity, but there's only saturation but no vibrance. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
So there's no vibrance, but we have clarity and texture. They would behave exactly the same way as they would behave in the basic panel here, in the presence panel. And you can definitely target the areas if you want. So let's have a look. Let's say if you want to just do the face, and I just
I think what he's kind of asking is, do they essentially do the same thing?
They do,
except for one's overall and one just targets.
Yeah,
So they-
right.
Thank you, Lorelei. That simplified my question, I think.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
The process that they do.
No,
is the
but
same
I was
thing.
wondering, because many times, you don't want to, use clarity all over, and sometimes you just paint an area, and maybe there was a slight, very subtle difference between one and the other if you're just focusing on a small area.
Yeah, they behave exactly the same way.
Okay.
What you're doing with the brush is just localizing the areas you want to adjust, specifying.
Franny,
Yes.
can you
Mike?
just quickly, what you just said, could you
Mhm.
actually just show an example of that?
With the brush?
Yeah, like just where you're making just a small selection and only doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's actually zoom this a little bit more. Let's say to 50. So let's say I want to use, I want to add texture into the hair, for example.
Okay.
So in that case, I would just select the hair. Actually, so when you press O, you will see where you're masking, and of course you can set up your brush down here, and you can feather it. It's probably a good idea. You can turn auto mask so it detects the edges. So I don't go into the face.
Okay.
But this is something you already know, guys.
No, Brandy, not everybody knows this because I don't.
Okay, so just quick 2 tips. Auto mask. If you have auto mask, you see I feathered the brush, so the inner circle is the one that will be 100% selected. The outside circle will be detecting the edges. So can you see how I'm even with the outer circle, I'm in the forehead, but still masking only the hair. If I turn
Yes.
the auto mask off, it will start selecting anything that's within the
Okay.
circle. So again, auto mask is pretty good. And then the feathering, you see how much feather I guess you're getting on your brush. And so this is how you set up your brushes here, and of course your flow and size and whatnot, plus other thing like range masks, but that would be for our topic. But let's have a look at the clarity, what it does. So all this select this. So let's have a look at the clarity slider.
Yeah.
What it does, it increases the micro contrast, sorry, and it just gives you quite a bit of pop in the hair. On the other hand, if I use the texture slider, it's way subtle. Can you see that?
Yes.
So it just increases the contrast, the texture in the hair. So let's see again. So this is 100% texture, and this is 100% clarity. So as I mentioned at the beginning, you have to be very careful with the clarity slider because it also increases edge sharpness, and that causes halos around the subject. So sometimes you see when people brush with around, let's say, mountains, between your sky and a mountain, with a brush, you see the effect that you'll see a little halo, a little white edge around the mountain, between the sky and the mountain, and that's what happens when you really increasing the clarity too much or sharpness.
So they don't do the same thing.
Yeah, they definitely
Texture
don't
and
do the same
clarity
thing.
don't do the same thing.
Yeah. absolutely not. Yeah. So as you can see, texture nicely increases the texture into, I would say, pretty good taste. Clarity really adds a lot of micro contrast, lots of pop to the image. And you can use clarity, for many reasons, but I guess to a point, it's really more, clarity is more more powerful tool than texture.
Just don't go to 100. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I wanted to keep this simple. There's way more we could talk about. I just want to kind of give you a hint on. There's many tutorials and many videos on YouTube if you really want to dive in and do things on your own. But as I mentioned at the beginning, when I was preparing for this, I realized that I really don't know these sliders, because sometimes I have to fiddle with them to see what really looks the best. So, and my only suggestion would be, every time you edit, doesn't matter if it's these two sliders or any other slider, always check before and after. That's, sometimes it tells you like you went too far when it just starts looking unrealistic. So
yes, Brandy, question: how far do you generally find you can push the clarity before you start getting the halo or the artifact?
Sometimes it depends on the type of the image.
Well, I suppose, yes.
But in general, I would say you start seeing the artifacts when you go probably over 50-60%. I can start seeing it on some images. Some you can go even further. Some you can even see it if you go 100%. But in general, I would say if you go over 50-60%, you already seeing something weird happening in certain type of details. They just either like fall apart. If
sometimes I've seen them sparkle, actually.
Yeah. So, and
okay,
you could
thanks.
Yeah, you could see that in some images, even in our photo club. I see that sometimes it's very tempting to push the clarity and saturation sliders all the way, and then it starts falling apart. Everything.
Okay, I think we're going to have to end this. I hate to
Perfect,
put you
yeah,
off,
thank you.
Ronnie, but guys, we're going to have to carry on to the next one. Chris, did you get back on here? Because I saw he logged off and was trying to get back on.
Yes, I am on.
Okay, awesome. So we have the scavenger hunt slideshow now, I do believe.
We do. I'll share.
Awesome.
It was a lot of pictures.
There we go. It was. Thank you, everybody. You did a lot of work, and there's a lot of people that participated. That was wonderful. Anybody have any comments or questions for anybody on there? You can go ahead and ask if you like. So these will be uploaded to a gallery, and we will see if we can send you the link when or I'll show you how to get there or something afterwards anyways. And so we're starting this site where we can upload all of our theme images and whatnot, and you've seen that in my email. So we'll get that going right away, I think. We do have to clear it because it is going to cost us. So we do have to clear it with the executive. So now we better hurry up and get on to the theme, and John's going to have to talk fast, I think. So John, are you going to display the images too, or did you want me to do that?
Oh, yeah, if you can display them. I don't have them.
You don't. Okay. So I don't have to screen share to do that, right? Or yeah, I do. Okay. Okay, are we good? You guys can see?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good.
So you just go ahead, John, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I was just going to give a few minutes. So just some general comments. The critique panel wanted to thank everyone who submitted. The variety of images was really impressive.
I'll wash my hands and I'll do your tummy.
Okay. And then just a general note of what was it? Just a general note, wanted to make a point of encouraging people to submit images that are recent for the theme. So the idea is that the theme should.
Well, I'll just leave the meeting.
That the theme should be inspiring you. So you usually have a year to
already, so
complete things.
Wayne, can you mute your mic, please?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And just talk about, so the theme was long exposure, which involves kind of movement. So either the movement is that something in the image is moving or that the photographer moved their camera. So this first one is, what we liked is we liked the black and white effect of it. Very pleasing to look. There's nice lean lines, nice shapes with lots of triangles, and that the long exposure effect on the cloud was exceptional. Certainly keeps your interest in the eyes with this dreamy shape. Things that we thought could be improved was this was shot at f/18, and that tends to increase the prominence of dust spots. So those could easily be taken out of in either post-processing or generally in post-processing. Foreground, general with a few elements, which is nice. The rock seems to be the subject. Yeah, it blends in with the hills on the right and the impact. So the impact of the rock is reduced, but maybe that was the intent. And then trying to get a foreground subject, move closer to the rock or walk around it, still maintain that great sky. But everyone thought this had beautiful tones from black points to whites. There was a discussion about impact if the rock was centered under the moving sky, so it kind of looked like the clouds were bursting out of it. And that was about it. Okay, should we move to next?
You can go ahead and say whose it is. Or
oh, sorry, I thought the names were, okay, this was Brownie's.
I won't display the name unless there's something we need to look at over there.
Oh, okay, I thought, yeah, fine.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right, next one, which was called Square Bales.
Oh, whoops, sorry.
Sorry, that's you, Lori.
That's me. Hang on. Okay.
Yeah, so this was called Square Bales, which we thought was fun because it's a square crop with round bales. We were a little unsure about the effect of the long exposure because clouds were going the other way, but we loved how it added the softness to the image. So yeah, looks like this image was shot around 7 or 7:30 in the morning.
And if somebody does want to pipe in with a comment,
Yeah.
go ahead, just as long as we keep it, kind of short so that we can get through this all, but we certainly welcome comments, especially from the photographer if they have something to say. And this one's here.
So that was George Clayton's. Okay.
Sorry, I can't find my mouse. There it is.
Yeah, okay. So we felt this was a great minimalist image, good balance, good use of negative space. The idea of the repeating dice as a repeating element that builds kind of anticipation. We liked how we had static dice and dynamic dice in it. Just maybe a more nitpicky, could have been more room at the bottom in order to give the falling dice someplace to move into. Otherwise, we thought it was very well composed. As for lighting, upper corner could have been a little bit brighter, the cup part, but overall, really liked it. This one was by Byron Lee. So this is the comet Neowise. Very nice image of the comet, made more interesting by the lightning in the cloud and silhouetted by those trees in the foreground. So these three images give the image a lot of depth. We did have some conversation about whether it was truly a long exposure, because even with the naked eye, the comet would have a trail in it. However, knowing that the lightning effect does support that this is a long exposure. Beautiful image with good color and depth.
It's a 15-second image.
Yeah. And this is Ralph's. Yeah.
I'm sorry I've got that by photo at the bottom of the screen. It'll take too much to exit out and get that out over there.
So this one's called Spring Flow at Lundbrick. So we thought lots of interesting elements in this image, with the flowing water framed by the rocks on the right and the bottom, and with the little tree on the left. There's just no doubt about what the subject really is, and the textures and colors add immensely to this image. We felt that the foreground elements that were brighter than the flowing water, and maybe that we felt that adding darkness to the foreground would have helped contrast the water with the foreground better. Also appears there's lots of sharpening or clarity in this image, which brings that attention to the water. We were wondering if this was shot in JPEG, and which would make recovering the highlights more difficult, and that thereby contributing to the bright foreground. So this was by Chris Cook. So we felt this is just a great picture of the Route 66 sign. The colors are vibrant. They're very attractive to the eye. Your eye moves around the frame a lot. The eye moves to the outside of the frame because the image is cropped a little too tightly on the left, and there's these distracting bright spots on the right-hand side, which we felt could have been cloned out easily, just to bear focus on the sign. So this one was by Rolf.
Should have been done with a tripod. Unfortunately, I didn't have one at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So this one's called Tranquility Across the River. This is a very nice creamy clouds with a 300-second exposure. The tree, great foreground subject. With such a long exposure, we found amazing that the tree was so still, especially here. The black and white's great. Lets the eye see all the textures instead of the color. We like the bright snow effect. We don't know if that, I'm not sure if we were sure if that was real snow, but we like that effect on the opposite coulee. Creates a nice separation between the prairie and the foreground and the city in the distance. Again, dust spots are made visible because this is a high aperture of f/18. Otherwise, really, really beautiful picture. And this was done by Chris Oates. Okay, so this one's Damn Old Man. Great image with nice silky water. Lines on each side of the dam. Draw your eyes to the subject. The top and the bottom rocks provide a nice frame to point the eyes where you want to look. Minimum amount of drab looking sky. Great lesson on minimizing the uninteresting images or items in an image. Just a great example of showing your subject. Movement in the water is beautiful. Lighting, cropping are great. We love the boost of yellow at the bottom of the water. There was some discussion we had about the sides seem out of focus while other parts seem okay. So there was some discussion about whether this was just a little bit of camera shake caused by long exposure, even on a tripod. Thought the horizon a little crooked, but overall loved the image. Great picture of movement of water. This one was done by Denise Nielsen.
I disagree with the horizon being crooked.
Actually, me too. I spent a lot of time trying to get it straight, and I finally decided that the walkway on the dam itself was the best thing to straighten.
Yeah.
So this was on a tripod, Denise, right?
Yeah, it was, but I think I was getting a little bit of shake. There was just a little bit of wind.
Wind, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay. So this is a very nice image of what looks like a blue hour photo. This has great leading lines from the trees as well as the curbs on the street that welcomes the viewer into the image. Use of a wide angle, very good for this type of scene. Different perspective or maybe lower to the ground would bring entry into the scene a little bit easier or sooner. We also thought adding a point of interest or subject, third element, into the whole frame would help it. Perhaps someone walking down the middle of the street, even if we don't see the face. The street lights would probably have been enhanced if, so this was shot at f9, it was shot at f12 or f22. Those street lights could have been enhanced with a starburst effect. Of course, that would mean changing the shutter speed and the ISO, which may not have been possible. We did notice some bright lights on the right that distract the viewer. So might consider cropping on the right side just to eliminate those spots. And we think the image was probably handheld because there are kind of these light squiggles around each of the lights. So maybe a tripod. But overall, this image had lots of potentials. Lots of potential with maybe just a few additional tweaks by the photographer. And this was done by, is it Diana?
It's Dana, and thank you. I was using my tripod, but I was having a little issues with it. It wasn't staying level. I think my sidewalk is a little unlevel outside my place.
Okay, Dana. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So this one was called Smashed. This is just a magical image with the smoothness of the ominous clouds and the wreck almost centered in the image in the middle. The black and white treatment really good here since there's no color to distract from that magic. The contrast in the image really interesting. The car in the center of the clouds keeps that flow moving around the image. Tendrils of the clouds coming from the top left keep the eye moving to the vehicle. Again, felt that the sensor could have been cleaned so there was no distracting dust spots or remove those in post. There was some discussion on whether the car should be centered in the image or whether more space on the right side, to give the car somewhere to go. There was also talk of how the car looked like it was coming from the bright side and then going into the darkness, like it was at the end of its life. But overall felt it was one of the best images that was submitted. This was by Ian.
Ian McGilvery, right?
Right, sorry, that's right. We have more than one Ian. So this is bike panning. A great example of a slow shutter speed and panning, beautifully executed. Exposure is great. The two red rims keep drawing your eye to the subject. The pan is just so well done that the face is relatively sharp and there's a bit of motion in the legs from pedaling. Perhaps a subtle vignette could have been useful just to focus attention on the rider. But this is a wonderful example of a pan shot, very well done. This was done by Donna Kruger. Okay, so this is called Weir. Very pleasing picture, fills one with a sense of calm despite the turbulent water that's on the right side of the image. Very well exposed, sharp from front to back, except for those intentionally blurred spots of motion. Leading lines takes you right to the university. The ice in the foreground is great subject. Generally, eye goes to that bright spot, but the foreground's so well done that your eye just keeps coming back to it before moving to that bright spot. University building plays a minor, but it's really important, a minor role, but is important in the image. A little bit more sky above the building could have given it a little more breathing room. Color contrast between foreground, background, great. Again, very nicely done photo. And this was done by Doug Petru. So this is waterfall, nice blue image with the glacier waters or blue feeling. Makes you cold just looking at it. Shutter speed provides nice silky water and turbulent water in the foreground. Focus and exposure, very good. Little touch of green, plant life, balances it. Composition's great. It's okay, but we thought that it could be worked, the scene could be worked a little bit more. Maybe the photographer had some constraints moving around, but maybe they could have moved around the scene a bit more. River moves the eye from the bottom left out of the frame to the right. So there's great potential of leading lines. The three waterfalls, flowing water in the top right corner, leaves your eye wondering what the subject of the photo is. Waterfall on the right carries the eye out of the frame, maybe just focusing on one of the waterfalls or moving to the left and getting all three waterfalls fully in the frame would create less tension. This was shot at 130 millimeters, so if there was a constrained movement, maybe less focal length could have helped. On the whole, image has a lot going for it. With the choices made, maybe a few tweaks would have just taken it to that next level. This was by Gary Stauffer. So this is called The Chief. Beautiful black and white, lots of pleasing contrasts. The dark sky forming a gradient towards the horizon. It's very clever. Maybe, you know, to do something different, make Big Chief bigger. If you didn't know what Big Chief was, you probably would miss it in the photo. Foreground, hardly noticed by the dominance of the sky. Maybe make it a panoramic, so kind off some of the dark at the top. But as it is, still loved the picture. Again, one of the best that was submitted, we felt. And this was done by Gord Ayers. So this one's called A Bridge Too Far. So the river forms nicely in line to the rail bridge. Put your eye directly in the middle with the rays branching out from the center. Obviously shot with intention, and the photographer made good choices that demanded emotion. So what we first thought was sun rays was actually caused by zooming the lens during the long exposure. And so starting zoomed in and then ending with the wide exposure for the duration of the long exposure. And you can see this by some of the lines under the bridge, which are black and are not sun rays. But whether sun rays or not, placing them in the center was very clever, moves the eye around the frame, looking at them. Tone of the image, beautiful. Photographer thought perhaps caused by dragging of the colors while zooming the image. I love the image, appreciate the preparation that it took to create this image. So this was by Ian Thompson. So this is a very familiar subject of Cameron Falls in Waterton. Exposure is great as the snow's white and the falls themselves are not blown out, they're silky. There's natural leading lines of the falls, well utilized both for the water and the rock. Some nitpicky things about rocks at the top that flow out of the frame. There's some distractions on the bottom left edge and the bottom edge should be cloned out or darkened, so not as noticeable. Also suggested a little more room on the left for the water to fall into would have been helpful. Right side of the frame, very bright, suggested toning that down, but on the whole, very good image with only a few suggestions. And this was actually my image. Yeah. And then, so this is obviously Whoop Up Drive. This image, great example of capturing light trails. There's a beautiful D shape to it. Composition's great, time of day, like blue hour, which allows you to capture those light trails and extend your exposure. Suggested maybe to clone out the bright blue light in the middle of the image until we realized that that's actually a reflection of the sky in the river. So that changed perspective. That changed our perspective, but most thought that just cloning out the street lights might be a good change. Notice there's bright lights at the top of the image, which we think are the cars on University Drive Bridge. Bit of a distraction. Image might have been improved if those were cloned out or darkened, but overall one of our favorite images of the night. And this was done by Mike, and I'm not going to try butchering his last name.
And we meant clone out the white lights in the Blue River, not the actual street lights. Just to make sure you guys didn't think we wanted to clone out the street lights.
No, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
It's the way I phrased it, yeah. So this one's called Trees. So this was done by Wayne, who unfortunately looks like he already had to leave, but he was there and he gave us some insight into what he was trying to get with it. Wind was blowing in the pine tree and he wanted to capture that movement. So he thought he'd framed the tree with the bushes in the foreground, house on the right. We ended up having a bit of discussion on whether or not the house should be left actually in the image, where some thought it grounded the image. Others thought it might have been helpful to shoot this shot vertically and then eliminate the house. But we felt this was a great attempt at a different long exposure. And our final image of the night, which is, I think, a great one to end on here. So, of course, fireworks, everyone's favorite, and we really love this image. Vertical composition, especially the silhouette spectators, and discarding everything else so that you really know what the subject is. We found this was just simple and powerful. The colors, puff of smoke trailing, the dotted lines of the fireworks, really, really well done. Only minor nitpick we had was perhaps darkening the smoke on the left edge, so there was some separation between the edge and the smoke, so your eye's not drawn out of the picture. Maybe adding a bit of vignette would have helped with that. But we thought this was a great example of filling the frame with your subject. And again, we felt this was one of the best that was submitted. And this was by Sigrid.
Yay, you guys. This is my first attempt at photography on fireworks. Took about 200 pictures, 30 of them turned out.
So this is one shot?
Yeah, I was doing like the hat thing because I didn't know what I was doing. So
you did it well.
Thank you.
I'll sit here for a minute. Is there anybody that has any questions for the photographers on any of these images or wants to comment on any of the comments that we made?
Yeah, I know I was going a little fast there.
No, that's
rest of time.
Okay. Yeah, no, we're still over, so we're okay. Okay, I will see if I can get out of the screen share. Awesome. So we had one more thing on the agenda, but I think we're going to, Gord said it was okay to leave it until the next meeting because we're over time already. Just checking here, the comments. Yeah, okay, I think we're okay for the comments. So actually, I'm just gonna screen share for a second here. Again, get back. No, that's not it. Back here again. And just see if I can get in here and show you this site a little bit. I do have it on my admin login or whatever, so some of the stuff up here isn't going to show up, but this is basically what I've got. So the current theme images are displayed here in a slideshow. This site will be for the active members only, so we'll have a password to get into this site that you guys will know, and nobody else should be able to find it or get into it. This is an example of what I've got the theme set up so far. So here's last month's theme, and here's the theme before. And sorry, if you click on it once, probably. Then there's all the theme images for last month. And anytime you're in one of these, if you want to back up one, you go up to these up here. And so if I click on theme images, it's going to go back to that folder here. And same thing, then if I click back on home, it's going to go back here and special projects. So I'm going to be moving, well, the scavenger hunt photos, I can't remember if I've got them all in here. No. So I'll be moving the scavenger hunt photos all into here so that you guys can all see them. And I think that's all we've got in there for now. But anything else that comes up that will go in there. And then we have the option here that we could create member galleries. So here, besides my name, there could be all of your names here, and you could upload whatever pictures you would like to have showcasing for your gallery. And if you click on an image, let's try this one. If you go to the side here, if you click this, this will play a slideshow of all the images in the gallery. The eye shows the information on the image. So you have all this information that you can find out about how it was shot, what settings, what camera, etc., etc. And if you click on the eye again, it'll disappear. Share. Some of this won't show up. So this download, you won't be able to download images or edit them here. Some of it, like I said, won't show up because I'm just on the admin. But that's just to give you, I think that's good. You can always click on the title too to get right back to the beginning if you're lost and want to get back to this page. And I don't think we're going to have slideshows on here because they are limited. Well, we might as well leave our YouTube one because we can't post any meetings here because the slideshows and videos are limited to 20 minutes. So I think we'll keep this a photo site. And that's all, I guess. So I will get out of here. Awesome. Okay, that's the end of the meeting. If you guys are all good, or if you don't have any other questions.
I just had one about the member galleries there. Would just over time, would we be able to remove images from that?
I don't think you can. You can upload. I can get you to upload, but I think it might be a little bit more difficult. I haven't really checked, but you can't really get in there and do stuff. So you might have to tell the admin or whatever to delete some of the images. I mean, it's really easy to delete them, but I don't think you can.
How, over a number of years, a member might have lots and lots of photos in there and might want to,
Yeah, and maybe we'll come up with a plan that after, that the oldest, that maybe they can only have, that the oldest whatever are deleted or something. We'll have to think about that. But there is no limit, quote unquote, as far as I know. I've got, I don't know how many images on my SmugMug site. So as far as I know, there's basically no limit. So as long as we sort your members gallery by the newest images first, then that shouldn't be a big problem anyways, right? Unless you didn't want them. But there's going to be images that probably as you get better, although sometimes I look back and my old images are better, but there might be some you want to delete anyways. But you might have to go to the admin and ask them to delete those images for you.
All right, just wanted to ask.
Yeah. Everybody else good? Everybody should turn their videos on so we can see you all before we go. I feel. Let's unmute you all too. Mute. Oh, I don't know if I can. Oh, maybe I can't. Okay, I'm good. If there's no questions, yeah.
Very good meeting, Laura Lee. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And thank the judges that helped out on Monday. It was a really good critique meeting, really good get together. So next, I think we'll continue. You guys feel free to email contact at Photo Club and let us know if you hated the way it was or if you liked the way it was. If you didn't like it, then we can stop doing it. But if it was all okay, then and if we have more time at a meeting, we'll have a little more interaction with the people, with the photographers and whatnot. But we were just a little pressed for time this time. Awesome. No more questions? Okay.
Thanks, Laura Lee. That was an excellent meeting.
Okay, thanks. See you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night.
Many thanks.